How's it going, everybody? I'm Digit, and this is the Streetcast. Welcome one, welcome all, but more than anything, welcome back. Streetcast Podcast. I'm Digit, and this week we actually have a guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi, my name is Steven.
This is my good friend Steven, and like a bunch of college schoolgirls, we got donuts in the middle of the table, 2 glasses of wine. He went with white, and I went with red, and we're just going to talk about some shit. So, one thing we did talk about a little bit beforehand is that you just got to switch. Mm-hmm. How did you find a switch when you cannot find anything right now?
Well, fun time finding a switch that was. I actually, when I was looking for a switch, I ended up finding something that I thought was a deal that was too good to be true online. And as if I've learned anything, if it's too good to be true, it probably is not true. And I ended up falling for an online scam trying to buy a Switch.
That sounds about right, yeah.
But then, after dealing with that scam for about a week, turns out one of the guys that lives down the street from me ended up having one that he wasn't using at all. So I ended up getting a better deal and buying a Switch used off of a friend of mine.
Good. Have you played the new Pokemon yet?
I have not. I know the DLC just came out, like 2 days ago or something?
Is it called like Crown of Tundra or something like that?
Yeah, Crown Tundra?
Crown Tundra, yeah.
Tundra.
And what is it? It's X, no, it's not X and Y. What are these? Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield.
Sword and Shield, yep.
DLC, it's the second DLC.
Bring the mic a little closer to your mouth for me. There you go.
I'm actually have not played it, but because the DLC just came out, I've been really debating whether or not I would like to get a Pokemon game, and if I do get one, which game to get, because I'm actually, I might be in the minority here, but I'm actually pretty upset that they're not going to release a third game that combines Sword and Shield, and they've opted to go for DLC content instead to make up for the third game. Yeah. Because that was always the third game was always my favorite every time I played Pokemon, like Emerald, Platinum. Oh God, I haven't played any Pokemon games probably since then. But the third games were always the ones I waited for because I knew they were going to come, and they were always my favorite. Yeah. And I loved the fact that, like, in the case of like Pearl and what was the other one? It was Pearl,
Diamond and Pearl.
Diamond and Pearl.
Diamond and Pearl. Yep. In
the case of Diamond and Pearl, you couldn't get all three legendary, and you also, like, there were certain Pokemon you could get in one but not in the other, but the third one always blended them so you could get everything that was in the game, like in the world, and I always appreciated that. And now I'm kind of sad because I was going to hold out for the third Pokemon game, right? I've always wanted to try one of these new 3D entries, but they're going to do DLC instead, and that has me very torn on whether or not I want to actually get one or just wait another year or two for the new games.
It's kind of funny when you talk about it, because when the new games came out, I talked to my brother about them, and I was like, why don't they just make a Pokemon a live service game? Why don't they make it and just update it throughout? Why don't they come out with one and just call this the final Pokemon game, but like World of Warcraft or any other game of modern day, they just update it as they go. And did you hear all the rumors about, and all the controversy about the new Pokemon when they dropped and didn't have all the Pokemon in it? Have you heard that?
I've heard some of it. I haven't...
A little closer.
I haven't kept up too much on it, but I know that a lot of people were not very happy with the fact that the National Pokédex was cut from... Or not cut from the game, but it was...
It wasn't there, yeah.
Like, it wasn't completely there.
Right.
Because I've never been one of those people that brought new Pokemon in from other generations. I never really played too far to the point where I would beat the Elite Four and then go to the other regions and do all that, because I was still pretty young, like when the last time I played Pokemon. And so not having National Pokédex was something I didn't really care about. Yeah. Because there was nothing I ever really focused on. I always played the new Pokemon game to play the new Pokemon game, not to
catch them all.
Not to play. But not that I would always try to catch as many as I could, but I wouldn't try to play the whole game with old Pokemon. Like, I wanted to see what the new Pokemon had to offer.
Yeah.
So,
See, that's funny, though, that you say that, because what the controversy surrounded isn't that they were entirely, like, the decision was that, or rather the controversy was, they didn't think that Nintendo Game Freak had made the specific decision to not add all the Pokemon in the game. What they think happened is that they wanted to add them all, but the importer, so they would import the models from the 3DS to use them for the Switch, broke. Like, that's like the theory, the running controversy, is that they think the importer for the models broke, and that's why there's not all the Pokemon in the game. And so they're having to remake the models, and that's why these DLCs are dropping, so that by the end of it, they'll have all the Pokemon models rebuilt.
That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
kooky.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's the current theory.
But then what about something like Pokemon Home? Because I thought, have you heard about the Pokemon Home thing? It's supposed to help you transfer Pokemon between different Pokemon
It's supposed to
games?
be like the home of all your Pokemon or
but
something.
shouldn't
Yeah.
that help reduce that problem? 'Cause I don't know how long Pokemon Home has been around, but after looking into the new Pokemon games, that's something I've realized that they have. If I wanted to, I don't know, start playing Pokemon
Right.
Go or get Pokemon like Let's Go Eevee or something and play those games, that would theoretically help me transfer Pokemon to Sword and Shield if I wanted to.
Right. And also, Let's Go Eevee. I love that game. I would 100% recommend it. I think it's super fun.
I've also considered getting
Yeah,
that one.
I would
pretty
recommend
fun.
getting that. Super fun. But anyway, on the Pokemon Home discussion, that's where it gets interesting, right? Because they started this live service to where you can get all your Pokemon in, but you can't transfer. You can transfer certain Pokemon to Pokemon Home and pay monthly for it, but you can't take those to the next game. You can't take them to Sword and Shield because they're not in the Pokédex, right? They don't have the national Pokédex. So that's where the problem lies, is that people are like, well, you drop Pokemon Home, and now I can't even transfer my Salamence. I'm a Salamence guy. You can't even get my Salamence over there to Sword and Shield. He laughs because I've always been a Salamence guy. And I told him when the new games come out, if Salamence isn't in it, I'm not buying them.
Oh my gosh. But see, now it's also the point where I feel like if they're just going to start doing DLC for every Pokemon game, they're only going to do DLC for so long before they make a new Pokemon game, if I had to guess. So at what point should I just hold out for the new Pokemon game and buy it when it first comes out, expecting DLC to come out in the future, so I'm already prepared for the DLC? Because now if I buy one of the new Pokemon games, I have to play through the entirety of the new Pokemon game, and then I'm also going to want to buy the DLC for it, and now I have two whole new DLC. Like, I'm assuming they have some sort of added-on story, new rivals. I'm sure some sort of new boss fights, I guess, if you can call it that, in Pokemon, because I don't think they're going to add new gyms, but I'm sure they're adding some new challenging fights to the story, new legendary. There's events that are going on right now that, like, I can collect the codes for all the little Pikachus with the Ash hats on them, but the codes expire at the end of November. So if I'm going to buy the new Pokemon game and I have those codes, I have to get it soon in order to use those. And if I could just hold out for the brand new Pokemon game that'll come out in maybe a year or two.
Right.
I mean, it's not like I'm going to have plenty of other stuff to play that keep me distracted while I wait for a new Pokemon game.
I'm really interested to see if they do drop a new one this year. I don't know. I want them to. I really do, but I'm interested to see if they do. Because with them doing DLC, you'd think that they would add more than one DLC.
But this is already their second DLC.
Is it actually?
Yes, the first one was the Isle of Armor.
Oh, that's right.
This is the second DLC they've had. I don't know how many DLC they're planning on doing, but I feel like most companies like to do the 3 DLC, and that's it. If I had to guess, that's typically what I've seen for most games.
Yeah, one for each quarter after the game. Yeah. That's interesting. I don't know. I really want them to come out with like an end game Pokemon.
That would be cool.
Like a free roam, kind of like.
Well, they're already almost there. That's why
They're
I
almost
really
there,
want to try the Sword and Shield Pokemon games, because like I've had other friends have them and I've seen them play them. And first off, they said playing it on a big screen TV, as like going from handheld Game Boy to like the TV screen, is just brings Pokemon to a whole new level, which I'm very excited for. The other thing is they've said that, because all I've wanted is just a nice open world Pokemon game.
Right.
And they've said they're almost there, because there's no more random encounters.
which is huge.
You can like the Pokemon that you see running around in the world are the ones that you're going. If you run into them, you catch them.
Right.
It's almost more open because you just kind of run around, do what you want.
But it's only in certain areas, right?
I don't know that much, but I do know that there's no more HMs. They have like weird other ways to get around things as opposed to using HM. So you don't have to waste move slots on your Pokemon to complete the game, or you have to have one grunt that just carries all the HMs for you slave that you don't like. Yeah.
The Linoom and Emerald.
I've heard you don't have to do that anymore. And so that sounds like that sounds exciting to me. I'm not a huge fan of, I think the Mega Evolutions and the Gigantamax and whatever the stuff that they're doing now. I think all those are a bit...
It's gimmicky.
Bit gimmicky. I think they're unnecessary, but I'm also... I grew up on Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Emerald, which are very simple games compared to the ones that they've got now. Yeah. And I was very happy with those. I haven't tried any of the new ones that have all these gimmicks in them. For all I know, I would love them, but they don't, just the idea of them does not appeal to me.
Right.
And that's kind of what has kept me from playing any of the newer games thus far.
Right. No, I would love for them to come out with like a final end game. Kind of like how, what was the latest Legend of Zelda?
Breath of the Wild?
Breath of the Wild. How Breath of the Wild was a monumental change in pace for the Legend of Zelda games and an absolute genre-defining game. I'd love for Pokemon to do its Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild moment. Should come out with a game that blows everything else out of the water, completely redefines the genre, and just changes everything. I want there to be difficulty levels. I want there to be every Pokemon in the game. I want to be able to visit every region. That's like, but they won't do it.
I think that would be cool, but I'm more waiting for the Pokemon game that feels like a Skyrim mod, because I'm pretty sure people have already modded Skyrim to where you can find Pokemon out in the wild.
Or like what are those Minecraft mods that have like the Pokemon?
The Pokemon out, you're just running around in a crazy world, different regions you can go to, and you just kind of make your own story. There's no set path like there are in most Pokemon games. It's just you can go to this gym leader if you want to, but all his Pokemon are going to be level 60. And you're going to have Pokemon that are level 5. So maybe you should probably go to this other gym where everyone's Pokemon are level 8, and it's easier to train up for that. Or you can just grind out in the wild to get your Pokemon to level 60 and do all the gyms in kind of the reverse order, if you want to think about it that way. Like just no path, you find random stuff just out in the world.
That would be really cool.
I think that would be awesome.
That would be, and then there's actual threat involved. If you encounter someone too strong, you're like, oh shit, yeah.
Or you could have like Charizards flying overhead just in random areas. Like you're just running through a field, and next thing you know, you see a Charizard start like raining down flamethrowers from above. That would be terrifying. That would be awesome.
See, that would be so cool. Or like the red Gyarados from second gen. Like if you know how you had to run through that area in the beginning? If you actually had to run past the Gyarados because he was trying to like get you or something.
Yes, that would be so cool. I think that would be awesome. Or like being able to just like go to a coast and seeing like a Gyarados just like swimming through the water, like jumping out or like serpentining through area. Like that would be so cool if they could just make some 3D rendered world.
Oh my god, that would be pinnacle. I want to see that.
That's what I'm waiting for. I have a feeling it won't ever actually come.
With 2020's current rap sheet, I don't think that's going to happen this year for sure. But I don't know. I want to see that happen, but I don't know if it will. I really don't, because Sword and Shield have sold more than any other Pokemon game in the world.
Have they really?
They have. They're the best-selling Pokemon game by far.
I did not know
record
that.
sales.
Do you think that's because of
the Switch?
Is it? But do you think that's in combination with the Switch and the fact that there's the quarantine going on, so more and more people are playing video games?
That's a good point, maybe. But I mean, getting your hands on a Switch right now, I think that the Switch is the console. I mean, right now the Switch is outselling the PS4, the Xbox One, everything. It's the best-selling console.
I think I would agree with that.
Yeah, and just because of that, I think people want to play Pokemon. And so they buy the newest, the only Pokemon game that exists on the console.
I totally fall into that category. I've been looking for a Switch for 4 months now, and I finally got my hands on one after falling for a scam. Yeah. And
now you want to play a Pokemon game.
And now that I have a Switch, I'm like, oh, there's a new Pokemon game. I haven't played a Pokemon game in probably 6 years. Yeah. Let me see what it's what it's about. And we're also in the age where it's really easy to just Google the Pokemon games, and you can find out what are all the key differences between the two games, so you know which one to buy. You can find a bajillion reviews on YouTube if you just search new Pokemon game reviews.
And if you have any questions about the game, everyone's made guides.
There's guides, there's wiki pages, there's probably an official Pokemon website that has different stuff, or like a Pokemon subreddit.
Oh my God, everything, And like you said, you want to play Pokemon, but it's the only one on the platform, right? So of course it's going to be the best selling one because everyone is buying Switches.
There's also Let's Go Pokemon, the Let's Go series, which I'm also tempted to get one of those.
I really enjoyed that game. I had Let's Go Eevee.
I've heard they're different. I've heard it's based more on catching than it is on actually battling.
It is.
Which I also don't know how I feel about that. I think it's...
And it's only Gen 1.
I appreciate the fact, because I did not know. That's what made me want to get it, actually.
Yeah, really?
Is the fact that I was doing research on the new Pokemon, and I saw people start talking about the Let's Go series, because I thought it was just Pokemon Go, but they put it on the Switch. And so I was like, I played Pokemon Go a little bit. It's cool. When I last played it, it was pretty bare bones, so I didn't ever really got back into it. I've heard that it's changed a lot, and I've had several people recommend it to me again to try it out again.
Right.
But then I started looking at Let's Go, and I realized it was I don't want to say reskin, I think it's more of a remake of Pokemon Yellow.
Yeah.
And Pokemon
100%.
Yellow was a game that I never played all the way through, but the idea of it sounded really cool because it was almost like you were playing as the rival, or it was closer to
as Ash.
It was closer to the anime,
yeah,
because you started out with Pikachu, and there were all these different, like Pikachu wouldn't ever be in a Pokeball; you'd be walking behind you, which I thought was super
and you
cool.
Can't evolve him.
Yeah,
yeah,
and like it's the same thing in the Let's Go series, except I've heard that they have changed. Like a couple encounters are different. They've added a little bit more story element. There are some little things that are different that some people think make more of a better story. There are some things that people think that was an unnecessary change. You should have just kept it the way it was.
Yeah.
But the fact that it's Gen 1 had me really interested, because I've always wanted to see the Gen 1 in 3D, because that's what I started on, was Pokemon Blue. That's Gen 1. And I thought that was the coolest game ever as a kid. So the fact that I could see it go from this 2D screen that's all like some shade of blue,
pixels and
pixelated, to a 3D representation where now I'm running through grass and having to avoid Pokemon if I don't want to fight them, and being able to ride on Pokemon. I get to have Pokemon on my shoulder, and it also has a co-op mode, which I think is super cool. I've been trying to figure out more like what that's like, and if it's worth it to try and get somebody to play co-op with me.
I will say it's super fun. And I would agree with you. It's more about catching than it is battling, because the battling, I will say the game is extremely easy, but the catching portion, super fun, because you toss a Pokeball with your Joy-Con, and it's like you're almost Kobe, just ripping spaghetti, Kobe.
I think
but you're just cool. Like going for it. And it's super cool too. I like the partner thing, with the Eevee and the Pikachu, even though you can't evolve them. I think that's a cool concept.
But they also kind of make up for it, because there are specific moves that you can train for your people, if you're playing Eevee or Pikachu, that nobody else in the game can get.
Right. So you have a more powerful move.
They're kind of stupid strong moves.
Oh yeah, they're very OP. They're very OP. But I mean, in that regard, like, isn't it interesting too how they're trying to wean away from Pikachu a little bit, and they're focusing a lot on Eevee recently? Like, they're trying to make Eevee a new mascot.
I actually haven't seen any of that.
Really?
But I will say, I was watching a speed run of the Let's Go games. Or not all the way through, but while I was doing my research on the games, I saw them start playing it, because I wanted to see what some of the gameplay looked like, and I figured that was a good way to see a chunk of the game. Rather
always
quickly.
Watch some gameplay, watch some Twitch streams, all that good stuff.
And at the beginning of the game, the guy that was playing through was talking about it, and he said he's convinced that the creators of the game originally were just going to release Let's Go Eevee, and then at the last second, they were like, actually, we'll throw in Pikachu too, so that there's two different games. Because when he's going through and playing, the game is so much easier with Let's Go Eevee, and there are so many different places where having Eevee is so much more beneficial, because Eevee gets a much more wide range of movesets, whereas Pikachu can only get one or two of the moves, and it's more electric type, whereas Eevee can get like pretty much any type. They have normal, fire, water, electric, and Pikachu only has electric.
Right.
And having Pikachu, you actually have to catch other people, because Pikachu's not as good. It's like the game was designed to have Eevee in there, so it's most seamless with Eevee.
Right.
Whereas Pikachu's kind of was an afterthought. And I thought that was
I
interesting.
really do feel like they're pushing Eevee. All the new trading card games, everything on the anime has like, now there's Ash with a Pikachu on his shoulder and his sidekick who has an Eevee on his shoulder. You know,
I haven't seen any. I've been keeping up with that. I haven't been getting into the world of the cards, and I haven't done that. Such
Heart
a
of the cards, Yu-Gi-Oh over here. The Pharaoh.
Oh my gosh, I have not been keeping up with the card game. I just bought the Switch, so now I'm looking at Sword and Shield, and I guess Let's Go, because that's the only 2 Pokemon games that are on the Switch. I mean, I need something to keep me busy in all this pandemic time.
Pandemic time, really, no kidding. What do you play? You play a lot of Apex, right? When you're not on the Switch?
When I'm not on the Switch, I've been playing a lot of Apex. It's probably my go-to, mainly because that's what my friends like to play. When they get on to play Apex, so I get sucked into that.
Isn't it crazy how that happens? Like, it doesn't matter if you're crazy about the game or not, which you eventually come to be, right? Even if you play it all the time. But like, if your friends are playing it, and that's how it used to be with consoles too. If your friends are on it, if your friends are playing it, that's what you're going to play. That's where you're going to put the most hours into.
And that's why I have it. Like I grew up on, like, I had brothers in the house, and when we wanted to play games, we would always try to find the games that had couch co-op.
Yeah,
because we wanted to play games together. It was always a social thing. We wanted split screen. We did racing games. We did like the Lego games. Lego games were awesome for couch co-op, like Left 4 Dead, Portal 2, like all the games that are known for their co-op stuff. Those are the ones we wanted to play. And now that we've all, like, we're not living in the same house anymore, everyone's kind of grown up and moved out.
Right.
When we get on Xbox, we try to get on Xbox to play with each other.
Yeah.
And so if somebody wants to play this game, then that's what we play.
Yeah.
And there really aren't too many story-driven games that I like to play that are co-op anymore.
There's not a lot of story-driven. I don't feel like they make a lot of story-driven games now that are co-op. I mean, a lot of
which makes me so sad.
Yeah.
Because
a lot of it's on the PlayStation. It's all single player. It's all Bethesda and that studio.
Right. Like, there's such a lack of story-driven co-op games that one of my brothers and I are working through Dead Space 3 again. And that
how many times have you played it?
So I've played through the story by myself once, and then I played through it again with a friend of mine. But this was all probably 6 or 7 years ago, maybe even more. Like, it's such an old game. But I've never played through the game as player number 2.
Yeah.
And the reason that that's significant is because in the game, so if you do normal story, it's the same if you go through the story missions, if you have 1 or 2 people, except like in the cutscenes, player number 2 is there, might have a line or 2, but like it doesn't change anything. There.
Yeah.
But there are co-op missions that you can only access if you have 2 people.
Yeah.
And so if you're not familiar with the story of Dead Space, the main character, his name's Isaac Clarke or something.
Okay.
So he, throughout this story of Dead Space 1 and 2, is like Dead Space 1, he's going insane. Dead Space 2, he's kind of going insane for half of it, and then the second half, he's kind of trying to get over it. And then Dead Space 3, he's kind of crazy. Like, there's something going on mentally, but it's not as bad as it used to be. He's kind of got it mostly under control.
Okay.
However, in Dead Space 2, when you're playing the co-op missions, since Isaac has already kind of gone through all this, he isn't affected mentally. However, the second player is a new person to the story, so he is starting that process of going insane throughout the co-op story of Dead Space 2 or Dead Space 3. And if you're playing, it's single player game, so you can only do co-op online. And the reason that they did that is because if you're playing as the first player, you'll be walking through a room and you'll just see a room. You'll see some boxes stacked over there. You'll see like a window or a door or something. Nothing ordinary. Like, it'll be spooky and dark, and there might be some, monster lurking around in the corner, but nothing out of the ordinary.
Uh-huh.
If you're playing as player number 2, you might walk into the exact same room, and you'll see, some presents, like a little toy model soldier sitting there. You'll see like a banner hanging from the roof, and none of that's there on player 1's screen. Or like at one point I was playing as player 2 and I got into an elevator and I started seeing a lot of weird stuff popping up on the walls of the elevator, and I was freaking out. Whereas my brother was like, Steven, what's wrong with you? Like, we're just in the elevator. There's nothing going on. Like, your character's just standing there looking dumb. Like, I promise you something.
Well, why do they do? Is it because they're simulating that situation where you're the new character?
They're simulating how player number 2 is kind of going insane and player number 1 is not. And I think that's super cool. And I've always wanted to see the player 2 perspective.
Yeah.
That's why we're playing through it again. And I'm playing as player 2 so I can see that perspective of like what's different. There are times in the co-op campaign where, or the co-op missions where player number 2 goes into some weird dream world inside his head, and he's trying to run through an area and defend himself. But then player number 1 just sees the second player sitting there on the ground, just like holding his head in his hands, screaming or something.
Oh my God.
And then monsters start swarming them. So player number 1 has to defend both him and and his partner by himself.
Who can't see it.
Because player number 2 is often is like in his mind, like off in his head doing whatever. And it's
actually
super
really cool.
I think it's an awesome take on like co-op
Yeah.
games, and I wish more stuff did that. But that's why I'm playing through it again.
Dang. Are they ever going to make a new Dead Space?
I wish they would. I don't think they will.
No?
Because Dead Space 3 came out such a long time ago.
Yeah.
And EA kind of, I think, is...
EA's kind of gone away, haven't they? Or like gone away not as much as they used to be.
Well, I think they're focusing more on Star Wars now, because they're the ones that have the contract for Star Wars. So they made Star Wars Battlefront. They made the Star Wars Battlefront 2.
Didn't Respawn make the new Star Wars game?
The Respawn made the Jedi Fallen Order.
Fallen Order, yeah.
But that's because EA bought Respawn. EA has owned Respawn for the last couple of years.
That's right.
And that's why Respawn has been doing the Apex Legends, is because EA said, hey, you're going to make a Battle Royale. So Titanfall 3 became Apex Legends, which also made me really sad because...
You love Titanfall.
I love Titanfall. I want a Titanfall 3. Don't think that's going to happen for another couple years. But they have said, don't give up on it.
Yeah.
Just don't expect it anytime soon.
Yeah. I think it will come.
But then, like, Star Wars Squadrons just came out. That's an EA game. Yeah. There's some new Star Wars VR game that's coming out. Tales from the, I don't know.
Tales from the Last Order or something? Or
I don't remember the name exactly, but it's some new VR game that's Star Wars based, and I think that's also another company that EA owns. Like, EA, I think, owns the Star Wars rights right now. So they've been focusing kind of on that shift because Star Wars is a big moneymaker. Everybody loves Star Wars.
Oh my God, yeah.
Especially in the video game world.
Oh, everybody wants to play as a Jedi.
Oh, yeah.
Why wouldn't you want to play as a Jedi?
Oh, yeah.
We just watched, the other day, me, the Mighty Marvelous and Wonderful Lucio. We just watched Rogue One and Episode 8. No, Episode 3. Episode 3, because everything's out of order.
Episode 3, choice favorite.
Yeah.
Rogue One.
Oh, Rogue One.
It's
best Star Wars movie they've ever made.
Definitely one of my favorite. Definitely one. It's such a weird movie too. Like when I look back at it and I'm rewatching it, I'm like, wow, this really does not start off great, but it just ends so well that you completely forget how slow it is in the beginning.
Oh, it's pretty slow.
And it's just you just have nothing but fond memories of it. And I love that. I love that movie.
I feel like it's more of the space opera, like the originals, because the originals were supposed to be a space opera. They're supposed to be this family and a story of the struggles of the universe. And then the prequels were about politics and the opera of the politics and whatever. But that's a whole other story, the prequels. Love the story. Hated the presentation. Hated the presentation of the prequels. But the originals were, about the story of the Skywalker family. And now these sequels, I'm not a fan of those movies at all.
Oh, I think the new trilogy that they made.
Yeah. With Rey and Finn.
I think it had a lot of potential.
Yeah.
And I tried not to go into it just immediately hating that the fact that they were trying to change something that was already so good. Just like trying to make more money, trying to beat a dead horse.
Right.
But I don't think it was handled well.
No, I didn't like the storytelling.
I did not like the storytelling. I think there was a lot of places where they could have done so much more with what they had. It just felt like a weak story, especially the fact that they had a third Death Star. Except, guess what? It was bigger again.
And then like the whole story about Rey's parents, it just wasn't connected.
All they did was give into a fandom
immediately.
Which was not like Snoke could have been such a cool villain.
Oh,
he could have been such an awesome antagonist. because I don't know much about the lore of Star Wars, but Snoke made me want to know more about the lore of Star Wars.
And then they just killed him.
And then they killed him. I've heard that they gave in to fans when they made Rey, when they finally told who Rey's parents were. Because everyone was like, oh, she's going to be this or that. And then they were finally like, okay, yeah, we'll do that because that's what everybody wants, to make everybody happy. And sometimes I think you need to do that. I think Star Wars was a case where they could have done something just drastic and it still would have gotten good reception because people just want a good, entertaining story. And if everybody's already expecting
100%.
one thing, why not throw them a curveball and really make them think about it?
And I feel like Star Wars is the kind of IP right now. Now that it's owned by Disney and there's so much going on, put someone in charge of it. Put like a Kevin Feige or a guy who knows how to collect stories and put them all together.
I want to see a Christopher Nolan Star Wars movie.
Oh my God, that would be insane.
Because my favorite Star Wars movies that they've been making recently are all the weird spin-offs. Like The Mandalorian. Mandalorian is cool, but that's its own Star Wars story. I like stuff that takes place in the Star Wars universe, but is its own story.
Like Solo,
Rogue One.
Yeah.
Like, they take place in the universe. They have little things that tie into it, but they're their own story. And I think that is what works best for them.
Isn't that awful in a way, though, that the big trilogy that was supposed to come out every other year is being overshadowed by these individual stories that are supposed to be just one-offs? And everyone loves Solo, loves Rogue One more than they do Episode 9, 10. Oh, I don't know.
I personally think it's healthy because that means they'll maybe actually start focusing on what's making money. If the big trilogies aren't making money, then they'll focus on one-offs that I think have much more potential.
Yeah. And you know one thing I hate about the direction they went with this new trilogy? I want there to be a lot of Jedi running around. I don't want there to be like a chosen Jedi who has to maintain. No, I want to see a bunch of crazy wizard swords and force fights. Like, I don't want there to be one Jedi. I think that's just stupid.
I want them to do more spin-offs of the Clone Wars.
Oh, the series is amazing.
Star Wars, The Clone Wars, the animated series is awesome. I love that. I still need to see the new season that they released on Disney Plus.
Rebels?
No, not Rebels. Because they finished Star Wars: The Clone Wars. They added a new season on Disney Plus.
Okay.
That I still haven't seen.
Oh, the final season.
I never wanted to see Star Wars Rebels, even though I heard it continued the story. Because Star Wars Rebels, to me, looked like a more kid-friendly.
Yeah, it looked
more kid-oriented, which I love.
Clone Wars was more for teens, more for young adults.
I love a good kid show, but I'm definitely more into the more mature animated stuff. And I think Star Wars Clone Wars, while it wasn't mature, it was definitely young adult. It had some really grueling underlying themes. I think if you actually break it down, they talk about a lot of stuff in that show.
Yeah.
And I like the second Star Wars movie, the Clone Wars movie. I also thought was awesome because all the battles with the clones, all the battles with all the Jedi were so cool. I loved that as a kid. And while it wasn't a great story, just the visuals in it were so awesome. Yeah. That's what keeps bringing me back to the Clone Wars movie or the third movie.
And a lot of the fight scenes are really good in that show as well.
I want them to take stuff and make a bunch of spin. You know how war movies sell?
Yeah.
Make a war movie, but you're a stormtrooper or you're a clone trooper.
That's actually a really good idea. Cool. Yeah, that's actually really good.
Did you ever play the original Star Wars Battlefront 2?
I did not, no.
Okay, so phenomenal game. I'm a little disappointed in you. But in the story mode, they had a story mode for that game.
Yeah.
And you would just kind of go to each map that they had in the game, and you'd go through the events of Order 66 through the eyes of a clone.
That's really cool.
So you started out as a clone trooper, you played as a clone trooper for a couple missions, and you had weird objectives that instead of just go out and control the battlefield, it was you need to go blow up this wall over here, or you need to take this thing and bring it back to your base. And then Order 66 happened, so there was a level where you were trying to go through and fight the Jedi, and then you became a stormtrooper, and you went through and played as a stormtrooper all the way to the Death Star blowing up. And that is one of my favorite Star Wars campaigns in any Star Wars game, because that's what I think they should do more of. I thought that was such a cool take on Star Wars.
That's a really cool idea.
And how easy would it be? War movies sell. We've got Netflix in the last year has released 3 different action movies about different types of soldiers or people just going around blowing stuff up. Just do that, but with Star Wars. I know we've got the technology to make everything in a good CGI.
Such a good idea. Yeah.
You could just follow a team of a special ops team that are clones, and they're trying to infiltrate some CIS base, like droid base or something.
Yeah.
And I think that would be awesome. Or start a Star Wars trilogy, but it's based from the perspective of the clones, and they're going through just
Holy
doing
cow.
cool army, like typical like army hula stuff. Like that would be so cool.
Oh my God, that's a really good idea.
I think that would make a lot of money.
And I mean, there's all
and it
kinds
wouldn't
of
be hard to
potential
do.
like
It
this.
could be a crappy movie.
Yeah.
And it would still make money because
It was Star Wars.
I think it's Star Wars and it's a war movie. People would go see it just to watch stuff blow up, just to see that, like, yes, there can still be Jedi in it, but it's not from the perspective of Jedi. It's from somebody that you know is kind of replaceable. It's somebody that you know is easily killed off if they need to be, whereas Jedi, they just feel so strong.
And that's one thing I love, too, that I don't think is correctly, or that I also hate, right? Jedi are supposed to be this force to be reckoned with. Same thing with Sith. They're supposed to be absolutely insane, just beings of power. And then, like, in Rogue One, the ending scene with Darth Vader, you see that. You see it.
And you don't see that a lot because they're the main characters. They're trying to make them kind of kid-friendly.
Good,
but they also have to be human. Whereas when I think of a Jedi, I think of someone that is all-powerful.
Yeah. When they
almost
show
invincible.
up, it changes everything.
And yes. Whereas when I think of a clone, that's the person that I want to see as human. I want to see, yes, it's identical to the person to the left and right, but they still have their own personality. I want to see that side played out through the war. I want to see the brotherhood that comes about after watching people just like drop left and right of you because people are using you like chess pieces because they don't care about you.
Just throwing bodies at problems.
About you, and you care about the people around you. I want to see that story. I think that would be awesome.
And why aren't we seeing more Star Wars content? Like, what is Disney doing that they're projecting? Like, they decide Mandalorian is a show and we're going to release a movie every year. Like, why aren't we seeing stuff like this? Like, I would love to see more Star Wars content. I think everyone would love to see crazy Star Wars ideas like this just all the time. And it's crazy to think that Disney, one of the biggest companies in the world, isn't producing more Star Wars stuff.
Well, there have been so many ideas that I know that have come about.
Yeah.
Like, there was a game called, the name escapes me, but there's very, very little gameplay footage from its alpha stage or something. And it was gonna be set in the Star Wars universe, and you were going to be a mercenary in the Star Wars universe. It was going to be
a bounty hunter,
like a bounty hunter.
It
was going to be a third-person game. You're going to be able to take cover behind objects and fight stormtroopers and fight other bounty hunters. It was going to be a story-driven RPG, and that to me looked like it was going to be a super cool game, a kind of a weird spin on Star Wars, not what we're used to seeing, not Jedi, not stormtrooper, not the main story, but kind of one of the side characters.
Right.
And then it got canceled. I don't know. I don't
course
remember why, but it got
it
canceled. And like that to me, I think would be something super cool. And little projects like that, I'm pretty sure Disney, when they took over, they had stomped a lot of them. They stomped a lot of them out.
Well, a lot of the books, because I know there was hundreds of chapter books about, Star Wars lore and history, and Disney just said, no, all your expanded universe is nothing. All this lore is non-canon.
I forgot about
that. Yeah, because they said
the
only canon now is the movies.
Which is so dumb because there was so much content out there.
Why not just use all that and make a movie? Because I think that they had written, and this is where it gets crazy. I have one friend back home, big high school friend, who was really into Star Wars and knew all the lore, had read all the books as a kid. And he said that when he read the book about Rey and Kylo Ren as a kid, what had happened is that Kylo Ren became a good guy and Rey became a bad guy.
Which would be so cool.
But Disney would never make a bad guy female character.
Really?
I don't think they'd ever do it. They never present a female character and then turn her into a bad guy.
I've never really thought about that before.
Yeah. And so when he read the book as a kid, he says that Kylo Ren became a good guy, Rey became a bad guy, which makes sense from their story arcs, right? Because
they teased that idea in
they did.
The trilogy.
They absolutely teased it.
They teased it.
Because that's the baseline of the book. It's like that's the
battle that she's fighting internally.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. That would have been a much better story in my eyes, I think. I think they could have done so much more with that.
Oh, yeah. Instead of just both becoming good.
Because you know what, they could have done this trilogy where Rey becomes bad, Ben becomes good, or Kylo Ren becomes good. And then they could have done another trilogy where they try to bring Rey back or something else happened. Like they could have expanded on that and still gotten their same end goal, but just developed the story so much better.
I don't think Disney would ever make a female character a bad guy. or at least change her from a good guy to a bad guy. There's no way after selling toys to a bunch of girls about them being Jedi. No, there's no way.
Do you think that part of the reason we haven't been seeing a lot of new Star Wars is because they're so caught up in the Marvel universe right now? Because that's a big moneymaker for Disney too.
That is fair. But I mean, COVID obviously has a lot of its production reasons, right? But not pointing to COVID directly, I do think it's because Star Wars is such a protected IP. It's they want to make sure that if they present something Star Wars, it fits the narrative. You know, a lot like how in Endgame they had the big woman, the woman fight scene there where all the girls got together at the end and they're like, she's not alone. Bum, bum. And all of a sudden Black Widow and everybody showed. Yeah, I know.
Saw how they very distinctly put that in there.
Absolutely. I think that with Star Wars, they want to use Star Wars as a quality front in a way. Even though it's not quality, but they want to make sure on the corporate side that it's all written off and good to go. Because I think that with Star Wars, it's such a big name still. They want to make sure they're presenting a good, clear image. I don't think they have as much risk with Star Wars as they do as Marvel. Because I feel like Marvel takes a little bit of risk here and there, here and there. Lately, not as much, but here and there.
I mean, they have a plan now, so we'll see what happens.
They have a new plan after Endgame and all that madness. But I think with Star Wars, they don't even have a plan yet. Because it doesn't seem like they're building to anything other than the trilogy, which no one ended up liking.
And do you think something like a show like The Boys will kind of kill the superhero play that's been going on right now and give them more room for Star Wars?
No.
Because I'm not saying I agree with it, but I have seen a couple articles of people saying that The Boys is the show that we need because superheroes are kind of outdated. They've been in our faces for so long that it's refreshing to have a show that kind of treats them differently and not the super
when it
godly
comes
people
to
that they are.
Superheroes, I think that there will always be superhero movies, like there will always be westerns. I think they'll always be there, but maybe not as often, right? We
still do have westerns. I've never thought about that.
Yeah. Tony Stark, Captain America, all those guys are gone, right? The main team is gone. So I do think they're going to slow down Marvel movies a lot. I think Star Wars, there will always be an audience for Star Wars. And maybe that might be the next superhero thing. Maybe Star Wars, sci-fi, cyberpunk, stuff like that.
Oh, so excited.
Cyberpunk genre, when it comes to sci-fi and humans interfacing with machines, that's becoming like the new sci-fi, the new genre that everybody wants to see more of. And so I do think that we will see more Star Wars movies in the future, and a lot of them, like we have in Marvel, because I think Marvel is winding down, but I don't think it'll be the next Marvel in a way, just because it's more of an opera story than it is a individual story. Because with Marvel, we had a bunch of individual stories that led up to the big one.
Okay.
With Star Wars, I think inherently it's supposed to be an opera.
But again, they could make it a bunch of individual stories. I still think that is where the money is, to make spin-offs of just somebody comes up with a Star Wars idea and they run with it. They try to make one movie, or they try to make one season of a TV show with it. And then if it does great, then it was its own story and it ends there. Or if it doesn't do well, it was its own story, ends there. Whatever. If it does well, then you can still continue it.
Yeah, and it's funny that you talk about that, because I made that exact same argument, not about Star Wars, but about the Justice League. I
think they could. Wait, okay, sorry, I'm going to let you finish.
Okay. But I made that exact same argument. Make your own story. Don't do the same thing, but make your own story and then build from that, right? I wanted, when they came out with the Justice League movie, I hated it, but that's a whole other...
the new movie that came out a couple, like last year or the year before? Okay.
Yeah. With Batflick. Ben Affleck, Batman. Yeah, Batflick.
Yep.
All that. Yep.
We're on the same page.
Yep. Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No. When it comes to that route, I really wanted them to just make a Justice League movie and put us right in the world. Like, Justice League has been around for like a decade already. Superman is...
Oh, I grew up with Justice League.
But that's what I'm saying. I wanted, instead of making like an origin story like they did, I wanted them to, boom, put us in the world. Justice League is a thing. This is what's going on. Boom. And then as they make more movies, they can tell the origin story about how did Wonder Woman join the Justice League? How did Batman join? Oh, a sequel. And they can build around it. Instead of copying Marvel and doing this whole origin build that they try, just put us right into it and then show us this traces and build towards another thing in the future.
It's funny that you say instead of copying Marvel, because that was my biggest pet peeve for the Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Is I think they try to be too much like Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
When I think of DC heroes, I think of like Batman movies, like any Batman movie. It's serious, it's grim. They're not trying to, like, there's maybe a joke here or there, but that's not the point of the movie. Whereas when I think of the Marvel heroes, I think of what kind of what Disney's done with them, where they're kind of lighthearted superhero movies.
Yeah. There's no real threat. Yeah.
So when I saw the Justice League, I was expecting like a nitty gritty, grim, like action-packed movie.
Martha. Yeah.
And instead, they decided to try and copy the Marvel thing and fill it with jokes. It was try to be lighthearted, but then also try to be serious, and that just did not work for me.
I wanted to be real quippy but dark.
I think it could have been a much better movie because like the story was almost there. Like you don't need a great story if you just need enough of a story, and I think it had enough of a story. I just think the writing was so poor. If they just had better writing, I think that movie would have been better in my eyes. And if they just focused more on action, trying to be a super cool superhero action movie, as opposed to a family-friendly, fun superhero movie like Marvel, I think it would have done so much better. They're trying to copy Marvel, and they're not Marvel. They don't need to copy them.
I want your opinion on this. Because I'm very curious. Zack Snyder. They're making a Zack Snyder cut of the Justice League movie. So they're going in, and they're remaking scenes, and they're doing extra scenes and everything. And Zack Snyder, the director, is going to make his own cut and present it to the world. Do you think it'll be better?
So I don't know much about Zack Snyder.
Yeah.
And from what I understand about that, it sounds like they're still going to have pretty much the same script.
Yep, same script.
They're just going to
more
add
scenes.
More scenes.
Yeah.
And to me, that doesn't fix anything. I think...
Yeah, I'd agree.
I think that maybe has potential to explain the story a little bit better.
Yeah.
But still...
a shitty story.
The problem was not the fact that it was a crappy story. It's got enough of a story. Like I said, I don't need a phenomenal story when I'm watching a superhero movie. What I need is either funny, quirky lines like in Marvel, or I need super cool action like in typical older DC movies. Right. And that had a crappy blend of both. Yeah. It had some action and it had some quips.
And it couldn't decide what it wanted to be.
And it didn't know. And I don't think the Snyder Cut's going to fix that.
No.
I think they just need to give up on the Justice League, say that, okay, that didn't go so well, and focus on what they know works best, like the Christopher Nolan Batmans. Those are serious, dark, action-packed movies. Yeah. And those worked for me. If they could just be like, okay, well, those worked. Those are DC movies. We'll just do that. Or like The Flash. The Flash, from what I understand, is a successful TV show. Right. And as far as I understand, I've never seen it. I've seen clips here and there. Right. And it sounds like the kid makes some jokes, but it's also like a fairly serious, like a CW.
It's a CW superhero show. Yeah.
CW superhero show. And that seems to work well. Like, why don't they take that approach to it as opposed to trying to be some family-friendly movie? Don't make it family-friendly. I think if they didn't make it family-friendly and just focused on trying to make the coolest superhero movie they could, it would be fine.
Have you seen the new trailer for The Batman with Robert Pattinson?
I have not. I've heard a lot of hype about it.
We're going to watch this out. Okay.
But
after we're done here, we're going to have to check that out.
Not even having seen the trailer. Yeah. But just hearing all the hype that people have about it and hearing that there was some riddle that people took time to actually try and figure out, I'm excited for it. I think they're going back to this is going to be a serious, action-packed superhero movie.
Like, did you ever play Arkham Asylum, Arkham City?
I played one of them. I want to say Arkham City.
Think about that, and it looks like they just plucked that into a movie.
Oh my gosh, that is going to be a good.
That's movie. What you wanted to hear. That's what you wanted to hear.
I think that's going to be awesome because those games are so good. Like, the stories in those, so many twists and turns. Yeah, so depressing. I think it had me crying at one point because like you never know what's going to happen next. I think that's what the DC movies need if there's going to be a revival in the DC world. Right, because Marvel's kind of taken over.
Well, I think that wraps up our discussion for today. We're coming up on 50 minutes, and we're about to check out the new Borat movie, too.
I'm very excited. I loved the first one. I think the second one's going to be more... Same thing with Borat. The first Borat movie, really dumb story. Like there's really no story to it at all. But they knew they were trying to be a dumb movie. So
they knew what
works.
they were. Yeah.
You don't need a great story if you know what you are. And so I'm super excited for the second Borat movie because I know it's not going to be a good story, but I'm probably still going to love it.
Well, we got to get some more wine in you because I'm already a whole glass down. He's only a half glass down. But we are through about half a glass or half a case of our donuts. So with that, everybody, thanks for listening to our 1 or 2 listeners this week. We actually had 10 last week.
Wow.
10 listeners last week. So thanks for checking out the podcast, y'all. I'm Digit.
I'm Steven.
And thanks for coming by, everybody. Y'all have a great week. Thanks for listening, everybody. That wraps up the Streetcast podcast for the week. This is something I do for fun, and I hope you had a lot of